Hey, Bulls and Bears, JJ here. BBB Bust. It is July 15th, about halfway through the month. Thank you for joining me for this episode. Bulls and Bears, things could be about to get really ugly in this country now. Kind of split on this, but we're going to talk in a minute about how many renters are going to have to turn to living off of credit cards and actually even paying rent with their credit cards, which is absolutely insane when you look at the cash advance fees and just the interest rates in general on credit cards. Now, there's eviction moratoriums happening. They're about to expire in many places. I have a hard time believing they're going to let this fall apart and have so many people lose their homes, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of people possibly, if nationwide moratoriums were to end right away at the same time. So I don't think they're going to let that happen. I think there's going to be some sort of other intervention, stimulus, rescue package, but we'll have to see. But let's get into our main article right here. And this is talkpoverty.org, and one of my viewers, thank you very much, posted this article, and somehow it got put into the spam section. If you post something sometimes with links of certain websites, it'll get put in spam. So I didn't see this right away, but it's a new article. As eviction bans expire, renters turn to credit cards. I cannot think of anything more dangerous financially than having to pay your rent with a credit card. Now, this article goes on to say that some landlords now have started to accept credit cards as payment, and typically that's still very uncommon for a homeowner, a landlord, to accept credit cards. But also people are taking out cash advances, and it's likely to spike once these eviction bans end and people realize it's either pay or hit the street or back to your mom's house or somewhere, to the park, to the tent, to your vehicle, wherever they may lead, homeless shelter, God forbid. But also cash balance transfers. Sometimes you can transfer a balance to your checking account, and a lot of balance transfers want you to pay off another credit card directly from one credit card to another, but there are still some ways to use your credit card to pay rent if the landlord doesn't actually accept credit cards to pay the rent. There's also people out there saying cancel rent, right? So we have the tenant right advocate here organizing a honking vehicle protest around U.S. Bank building, and she says basically just cancel rent, no more rent for everybody. And on the surface it sounds like, yeah, that's the right thing to do, but think about being a homeowner and maybe you're renting your home out because you couldn't afford it. Maybe you had to move back in with your parents and you're just renting your home out as a way for the mortgage to be paid. Okay, there are people that actually do that. There's of course also investors that buy homes and have multiple properties that won't be hurt as bad. But a lot of renters also are not as rich as a lot of landlords rather are not as rich as you may think. A lot of them have outrageous bills to pay. Okay, property taxes, HOA fees in many places. Maintenance and upkeep, insurance. The homeowner still has to pay for the insurance for the structure. So while there's a lot of people out there, cheering for the rent strike, but just think about it, it's not that simple. And some would say, well, it is that simple because then the Fed could just come in with their unlimited printing press powers and pay everything that's not being paid, the taxes and so forth and so on. So as if you probably noticed, there's limits to what the Fed's going to do. When it comes to helping people versus corporations and institutions, you see most of the help go towards the corporations and institutions, and their theory behind that is, well, these corporations and institutions create jobs. So without the support of us, so they choose to support the banking system, the corporations, corporate bailouts, buying corporate bonds, forgivable PPP loans even to billionaires and multimillionaires, so they can keep their workers on the payroll. But if you've noticed in corporate America, a lot of the funds stay at the top, and many of the workers for these companies end up living paycheck to paycheck. Excerpt out of this article: two widely used rental management software companies, Entrata and MRI, use data from around the country to report spikes in credit card rent payments of up to 7% compared to the spring of last year. Other initial studies indicate that up to 18% of families using their credit cards to make rent have done so for 2 months in a row. All right, this is an absolute bomb waiting to explode. If these people have to resort to credit cards to pay their rent, how are they ever going to pay off this debt? Because it's very high rate of interest unless you have some promotional period, which typically is not very long, a year at the most. And in most places, the rental eviction moratoriums have not even ended yet, and we're already seeing an uptick of people living off credit cards and using them to pay rent. It's an absolute disaster waiting to happen. Again, we'll have to see what other rescue packages are thrown at this problem. But I would say hold on to your seats, because we could start seeing even bigger problems unfolding. And you think the unrest is bad now, just wait until people are on the streets, and I think the uprisings and the protests could get even worse when you factor in the financial situation that's about to take place. Now, something else that we've talked about before, but here's another article that I found on this. Electricity bills are about to get even higher. This is out of PCMagazineUSA.com. Live near a big city, expect big utility bills to spike. And this has to do with the stay-at-home situation right now in much of the country, but it's going to be even worse in big cities because the utility companies are saying they have an even bigger population to serve. And when more people are at home during the hot summer months, not going out because a lot of things are shut down, because people are scared to go out because of the sickness, well, now they're going to say, hey, now we have to raise the rates because they're having trouble keeping all this extra demand supplied to all these homes. And we already know from previous reports that we've done here, other articles that we've looked at, that a lot of people are fleeing these big cities. They're seeing what's happening, the cost of living. A lot of it has to do with work at home. A lot of companies now are doing work at home, so people are choosing to move to lower priced areas out of the bigger cities. Right. Also, where you have larger populations all scrunched in together, you're going to see more unrest. We've witnessed that over the past few months, with some downtown areas being literally destroyed. But excerpt out of this article right here, 1 in 3 Americans live in the 13 largest metro areas in the U.S. So a lot of us have been herded in or near the larger cities because that's where most of the jobs are concentrated at. And even before we entered this current period that we're in right now, this shutdown, recession / depression, debt was already at all-time highs. Before the shutdown, debt was already at all-time highs. It's not just about the shutdown. That's going to be the blame, and that's going to be the scapegoat. But this situation was already dire. The Fed had to consistently lower interest rates, deregulate the banking system to keep the lending happening, keep the money flowing, easy money. And we've been seeing this unwind now for a while, and now it's finally coming to a head, and it's escalated by this shutdown. And there's no way that we're going to get out of this without feeling some pain. Even the most well-prepared people are going to have a hard time getting out of this without feeling some pain. Maybe it'll be your neighbor, maybe it'll be your friends, maybe even family members will be losing their homes. And maybe even some of us, maybe even me. I could lose my job tomorrow, and with the expense of living here in California, as much as I say, prepare for a rainy day and save, I probably wouldn't last much more than 6 months considering the cost of living here in California. So if it happens, I'll deal with it. I may have to relocate to a lower priced area. All right, we're going to wrap it up right here. A recent article over at Z Hedge, Von Geyers, the Humpty Dumpty system is irreparable. What does it take to break the global financial system? Well, obviously we know what it takes, since the system is already broken by debts, broken by deficit, broken by a fractured financial system, and broke by false markets as well as fake money. So just like Humpty Dumpty, the system has already taken a big fall, but the world still believes that it's all a fairy tale with a happy ending. No one wants to recognize that Humpty Dumpty is totally broken and irreparable. All right, skipping down into this article a little bit here, it continues, a few of us have understood that the end game would consist of unlimited, there's that word again, unlimited, creation of debt and fake money. That's right, it's not backed by gold, we know it's unlimited. Not because anyone believes that the biggest debt bubble in the world will disappear by issuing more debt. But this is the only remedy left to a totally dumbfounded system which has for years dug its own grave. This economic system has dug its own grave. So if debt is the problem, throwing more debt onto the problem, it's like throwing gasoline on a fire. It's not going to help. It's just going to make it worse. You may prolong the real agony that's going to be at the end of all this when this finally does come to its devastating end. All right, so we have to continue to keep an eye on the string pullers, the money masters, the monopoly men, the fiat currency funding money bankers that basically run the economy. This is not a free market. This is not capitalism. Remember, in free markets and capitalism, you cannot have a centrally planned economy with unlimited money printing, with a few people deciding what happens to millions of people. That's not capitalism. It's not a free market. Right? And if you don't believe me, just go look up those definitions and read them for yourself. And I think most of you know that. I'm probably preaching to the choir, but thanks for watching this report, everybody. Hope you're well. Hope you stay safe. Hope you're staying healthy. If you are finding yourself out of work at this time, I do hope you have some support, some family that can help you, financial support, hoping you're getting some sort of unemployment or other assistance at this time if you're out of work. And until next time, thanks everybody for watching this report. Bye for now.